I want to start with a sentence that carries weight, emotion, and truth. I'm leaving tonight.
I never thought I'd say this to you.
Those words aren't about running away. They're about finally running toward who you're meant to become. Because there comes a moment in life when staying costs you more than leaving, and that moment doesn't arrive with fireworks. It arrives quietly, disguised as exhaustion, confusion, or a feeling you can't ignore anymore. Leaving is sometimes the highest form of self-respect, and that idea alone can transform how you see your life, your choices, and yourself. Most people are taught that strength means endurance, that loyalty means staying no matter the cost, and that walking away is a sign of weakness. But education through a very different lesson. Self-respect begins the moment you stop abandoning yourself to keep others comfortable. Yeah. On your energy is depleted not because you are incapable, but because you are investing it in a place that no longer allows you to grow. When you choose to leave, you are not rejecting people or situations. You are correcting direction. Human behavior studies show that prolonged misalignment between values and actions leads to stress, burnout, and loss of identity. That quiet frustration you feel is not confusion, it is feedback. It is your internal guidance system telling you that the cost of staying has exceeded the value of remaining. Ignoring that signal doesn't make you strong, it makes you stuck. Self-respect is not loud. It doesn't announce itself with anger or drama. Often, it shows up as a calm, painful clarity. You finally understand that your time, focus, and emotional bandwidth are finite resources. When those resources are consistently drained without growth, appreciation, or progress, the most intelligent response is change. Education teaches us that systems must be updated when they no longer serve their purpose. Your life is no different. Leaving requires responsibility. It means accepting that no one is coming to rescue you from a situation you've outgrown. It means recognizing that staying out of fear teaches others how to treat you, but leaving out of self-respect teaches you how to trust yourself. That trust becomes the foundation for confidence, discipline, and long-term success. Many people wait for permission to leave, permission from circumstances, from others, or from timing. But self-respect doesn't wait for ideal conditions. It acts when awareness arrives. The moment you clearly see that staying is shrinking you, that moment becomes your turning point. Growth doesn't require certainty, it requires decision. And is the truth most people never hear. Leaving will feel uncomfortable even when it's right. Discomfort is not evidence of failure. It's evidence of transition. Every meaningful upgrade in life passes through uncertainty. But once you honor your self-respect, your standards rise, your boundaries strengthen, and your future begins to align with who you are becoming. Walking away is not quitting. It is choosing yourself with intention. And when you do that, you don't just change where you are. You change who you believe you are capable of being. Leaving is sometimes the highest form of self-respect. And that truth is difficult because it forces you to confront what you have been tolerating for far. Many people confuse endurance with strength, but education teaches us otherwise. Strength is not about how much pain you can survive. It's about how clearly you can recognize when something is costing you your values, your energy, and your future. Self-respect begins the moment you stop asking, "How much more can I take?" and start asking, "Why?" When you choose to leave, you are not rejecting people or circumstances, you are correcting an internal standard. Psychologically, this matters because the brain learns from repeated behavior. Every time you stay where you feel diminished, you reinforce the belief that your needs are optional. Leaving interrupts that pattern. It sends a powerful message to your nervous system, my growth matters. This is how self-respect is built, not through words or affirmations, but through decisive actions that align with your deeper values. Over time, these actions reframe your identity from someone who adapts to limitations into someone who defines boundaries. That shift alone elevates performance, confidence, and long-term fulfillment. Comfort zones quietly drain potential, not because they are painful, but because they are predictable. Education shows us that learning only happens under slight stress, where the mind is challenged to adapt. Comfort zones remove that challenge. They lull you into routines that feel safe while slowly disconnecting you from your capabilities. The danger is subtle. You don't feel broken. You feel restless or uninspired. Yet beneath that calm surface, your potential is being underused. Growth requires contrast. When you step away from what's crying, activates problem solving. This is why change often feels chaotic at first. It's your system recalibrating to expansion. Leaving a comfort zone doesn't mean abandoning stability. It means redefining it. True stability comes from knowing you can adapt, not from clinging to what's familiar. When you choose growth over comfort, you train yourself to trust your ability to handle uncertainty. That trust compounds. It turns fear into feedback and obstacles into instruction. Eventually, what once felt impossible becomes normal, and a new comfort zone forms at a higher level of capability. That is how potential is protected, developed, and ultimately fulfilled. Leaving is not abandonment, it is self-alignment and emotional maturity. Fear appears strongest right before a breakthrough decision. Growth demands action before certainty, not after. I want you to understand something deeply tonight. The words I'm leaving are not words of weakness. They are words of awareness. They come from a place where the mind has learned enough, the heart has endured enough, and the soul finally says, "This chapter has taught me what it can teach me." Education in life doesn't always come from success. Often, it comes from staying too long and finally recognizing the cost. Most people believe leaving means giving up. In reality, leaving is often the first time a person truly stands up for themselves. Psychology teaches us that the brain prefers familiarity, even when that familiarity causes pain. That's why people stay in environments, patterns, or relationships that drain them.
Not because they are incapable, but because uncertainty feels scarier than discomfort.
Growth begins the moment you challenge that instinct. When fear shows up at full volume, it's not there to stop you. Fear is there to measure how important the next step is. If the decision didn't matter, your nervous system wouldn't react so strongly. Fear is evidence that transformation is near. Education teaches us that emotional discomfort is a sign of neural change. You are literally rewiring who you are when you choose action despite fear. Leaving also teaches responsibility, not blaming others, not waiting for permission, taking ownership of your direction. When you say, "I never thought I'd say this to you," what you're really saying is, "I've outgrown the version of myself that stayed silent." That moment is powerful because identity changes before results do. And once identity shifts, behavior follows naturally. Here's the truth most people don't hear enough. Clarity comes after movement, not before. Confidence is built through evidence, and evidence only comes from action. Waiting to feel ready is a trap. Education shows us that momentum is created by small, decisive steps taken consistently. Leaving is not a single act. It's the first step in a series of aligned choices. So, if tonight feels heavy, let it. Important decisions carry weight because they shape your future. You are not walking away from people, places. You are walking toward integrity. And when your actions finally reflect your values, peace follows even if the path is uncertain. Here are 4 expanded keynotes, followed by the full speech. No headings are mentioned anywhere, and the total stays within the requested length. 4 keynotes. Leaving is an act of self-leadership, not abandonment. Fear signals growth, not failure. Emotional honesty creates lasting transformation. True education begins when comfort ends. I want to begin with a sentence that many people rehearse in their hearts but rarely say out loud. I'm leaving tonight.
I never thought I'd say this to you.
Those words are not born from weakness. They are born from awareness. And awareness is the foundation of all real growth. Education teaches us that when awareness expands, old patterns can no longer survive. Most people stay not because they are fulfilled, but because familiarity feels safer than uncertainty. The mind prefers predictability, even when predictability hurts. But growth does not respond to comfort. Growth responds to decision. When you choose to leave what no longer aligns with your values, you are practicing self-leadership. You are teaching your nervous system that your future matters more than temporary relief. Fear often shows up right before progress. That's not coincidence. Psychologically, fear is the brain's response to unfamiliar expansion. It doesn't mean you're wrong, it means you're stretching beyond an old identity. Education in human behavior shows us that confidence is not something you wait for, it's something you build through action. The moment you move, the mind follows. Leaving is not the end. It is the beginning of a life where your energy, effort, and purpose finally point in the same direction. Saying goodbye can feel like loss, but often it's correction.
You're not rejecting people or places, you're releasing versions of yourself that no longer serve your mission.
Emotional honesty is powerful because it aligns intention with action. When your words finally match your inner truth, energy that was once trapped in conflict becomes available for creation. Leaving is not the end of learning, it's the beginning of real education. Life teaches most effectively through experience, not theory. When you step away from comfort, you gain clarity. When you choose uncertainty with purpose, resilience is built. And when you honor your inner voice, you establish trust with yourself, a skill more valuable than any external approval. So if tonight feels heavy, understand this: meaningful decisions carry weight. That weight is proof that you are choosing growth over habit. And once you make that choice, your direction changes, your standards rise, and your future begins to respond. Leaving is an act of clarity, not escape. Growth demands emotional courage before external change. Fear is information, not a command. Self-respect is built through decisive action. Endings are often the doorway to purpose. I want to begin with a sentence that feels heavy because it's honest. I'm leaving tonight.
I never thought I'd say this to you.
That sentence doesn't come from impulse. It comes from awareness. It comes from the moment when you finally realize that staying has been costing you your energy, your confidence, and your future. Education teaches us that behavior follows belief, but life teaches us something deeper. Belief changes when action becomes unavoidable. Most people don't stay because they're happy. They stay because they're familiar with the pain. The mind prefers what it knows over what it needs. But growth has never lived inside comfort. Growth lives where uncertainty begins. When you decide to leave, you are interrupting an old pattern, and interruption is the first step of transformation. Without disruption, the brain repeats. With disruption, the brain rewires. Fear will show up loudly at moments like this. That's not a sign you're wrong. That's evidence that you're standing at the edge of expansion. Fear exists to protect the old identity. Education helps us understand this. The nervous system resists change before it adapts to it. If you wait for fear to disappear, you'll wait forever. Courage is acting while fear is still in the room. Leaving doesn't mean you didn't try hard enough. It means you tried long enough to learn the truth. It means you've gathered enough data from experience to make a conscious decision. And conscious decisions create power. When you choose yourself with intention, you begin teaching the world how to treat you. There is also a deeper lesson here. Sometimes leaving is not rejection, it's alignment. You are not walking away from people or places, you are walking toward values, growth, and integrity. And integrity is the foundation of sustainable success. When your actions align with your inner standards, confidence stops being something you chase and becomes something you generate. Tonight isn't about loss. It's about direction. Every meaningful life has chapters that end without permission. But endings create space, and space allows evolution. One day, you'll look back and realize this was not the moment you broke. It was the moment you chose momentum over fear. You're not leaving because you're weak. You're leaving because you've learned enough to move forward. And that lesson will carry you farther than comfort ever could. Leaving is sometimes the highest form of self-respect. When you choose to walk away, you are not rejecting people or situations. You are honoring your inner standards. Education teaches us that values guide behavior, and behavior shapes destiny. Staying where you are, undervalued, slowly erodes confidence and clarity. Leaving, on the other hand, restores alignment between who you are and how you live. It is a decision rooted in awareness, not anger. Comfort zones quietly drain potential. What feels safe often becomes a silent cage. Familiar routines numb curiosity, and predictable outcomes limit growth. Research on human performance shows that learning accelerates when we step into uncertainty. When you leave the familiar, your mind is forced to adapt, problem solve, and expand. Discomfort becomes a classroom, and challenge becomes a teacher. Fear is not a stop sign, it's a signal. Fear appears whenever growth is near because the brain is designed to protect what it knows. But fear does not measure danger, it measures importance. The presence of fear means the decision matters. Educated decision-making requires recognizing fear without obeying it. When you move despite fear, you train resilience and build emotional strength. Growth requires decisive emotional honesty. Pretending, delaying, or hoping keeps you stuck in mental negotiation. Clarity arrives when you speak the truth to yourself and act on it. Psychology confirms that decisive action reduces anxiety more effectively than endless analysis. When you say I'm leaving, you close the loop of uncertainty and free mental energy for progress. Separation can be an act of love, not rejection. Leaving does not erase gratitude or shared history. It acknowledges that growth paths can diverge. Healthy boundaries protect both sides from resentment. Emotional intelligence teaches us that choosing yourself is not selfish when it prevents long-term harm. Sometimes distance preserves respect where closeness would destroy it. Change becomes permanent when meaning is attached. Temporary motivation fades, but meaningful decisions endure. When leaving is connected to purpose, learning, and future contribution, it becomes sustainable. Education is transformation, not information. By attaching meaning to your departure, you turn a painful moment into a defining milestone. You don't leave to escape, you leave to evolve.